friends, it's Unicorn. With the end of the year approaching, it is time for my last book haul of 2023. This year, because I have been using my library like crazy, I actually purchased lesser books than usual. However, also because I have been using my library like crazy, my physical TBR actually increased. But nonetheless, getting books is still a very fantastic thing to do, no matter the size of the TBR. So today, let's talk about them, and some books that I got in the second half of the year have very special meaning to me, so let's dive in. First book I got here is The Halfway House by Guillermo Rosales and translated by Anna Kushner. This book is set in a mental health institution in Miami and centered around a young writer who, just like Guillermo, is also a Cuban writer. William was an oppressed writer in Cuba, and he was actually exiled to this halfway house where he felt like he was being trapped with a lot of abusive overseers. It is a very disturbing novel with very asphyxiating atmosphere, and it's also very hard for me to imagine if this book is not a autobiography novel of the author. Especially I learned the life story of the author, who is also struggled a great deal with mental health, and also William is just the English version of Guillermo. Is it autobiographical? I feel like I have to read it to find out. And then I have a classic. This is The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. Guys, this is another one of my failed Victober attempts. This is a group read of the past Victober, and I got this book, of course, with wishful thinking, but as you guys know, I went to visit my parents in October, so I did not have time to read it. It is said that this book is one of Trollope's greatest novels, and it is a satire of the 19th century's literary world in London and also an indictment of the financial speculative world. I am really interested in the story, and I hope I can finish this story before the next Victober, before I try again. And since we're talking about books related to London, I want to show you a couple of books that I got when I visited London in the second half of the year, and they are somewhat all related to the stage performance that I really loved. First one is Accidental Death of an Anarchist by Dario and translated by Simon Nye. It's a script of the play that was written in the 1970s, and the story in the play happened in a police station. One day the officer was interrogating a person who is called a maniac who caused quite some chaos in the police station on the 3rd floor. But the maniac kept outsmarting the officer and make fun of him, and in the end, the interrogatee became an intruder in the police station and started to investigate the accidental death of an anarchist. This play was inspired by a true case of the death of an anarchist back in the days in Italy, and it is a sharp and hilarious satire on police corruption. I have watched this play numerous times in different places, and every time it was adapted into a new version, the content of the satire and the jokes kind of switched based on what's going on at that time in the place where it's adapted. The core of police corruption and all the criticism of it stays the same. I was lucky when I visited London, there's a new British version of this play, and it was fantastic. Adaptation is close to the new political environment in our modern world, and the performance was just on point. So I wanted to read the script of the version that I watched in London, but it wasn't released until next year. So I just got this classic version, and I wanted to read this while I was waiting for the other updated one. And then I got the play script of Mousetrap by Agatha Christie. This is a cozy mystery, and it is the longest running play in the world. It haven't stopped running after Agatha Christie wrote it, and I got this actually is a 70th anniversary edition. So to me, a big Christie fan, I feel like it's a dream come true for me to watch this play on stage, and also got this book. The story happened in a hotel on a big snowy night, and because how heavy the snow was, everybody is essentially trapped in this hotel, and we learned that every guest arrived with different motives and different mission on mind. And of course, things started to go wrong, and we have a cozy murder mystery. It was such a lovely experience watching this play, and I just want to have this book to remember the lovely time. And then I got a script of a new play of this year, and that is Frank and Percy. This is a small theater two-man show, which the two men are portrayed by Ian McKellen and Roger Allam. Frank and Percy are two elderly men met each other walking dogs in a park, and then they started to talk about the weather, talk about the dog, and talk about their lives, and eventually talk about each other. The play is truly touching, and needless to say, seeing those two divine actors performing together in front of my eyes was just such a blast. So I got the script, I want to read it and remember the play. Then I have two books that I got in the iconic bookshop in London called Against the World. By the way, I love that bookshop. They have so many queer literatures organized by genre, and I love that they have a whole entire ace section. And the first book I got is the Berlin novels by Christopher Isherwood. This is also related to one of my favorite stage performances. The musical Cabaret was adapted from one of the stories in the book called Goodbye Berlin. I love Cabaret, so I always wanted to read the book that inspired it. Cabaret was talking about a young American writer arrived in Berlin just before the start of the World War II, and he got himself into a bunch of unforgettable characters, including the dancers and workers in a Kit Kat club, and his landlord and the attendants, and also the friends that he met on the train. From the episode of him interacting with different characters in Berlin, we get the picture of the gathering evocation of the haunting terror of Nazis in Germany. It was truly a magnificent musical, and it was one of the greatest musicals that I have ever seen, so it's only fitting to pick up this book in Against the World. The second book I picked up is Time is a Mother by Ocean Vuong. This is Ocean Vuong's poetry collection and dealing with the aftershock of his mother's death and talking about his life embodying the paradox of sitting with grief and also survive beyond it. I've always wanted to explore Ocean Vuong's poems because I heard they are deeply moving, and this is where I will start. And then move on to the books that I got not in London. We have The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. Zoe from the comment section highly recommend me to reading this book every time I mention something remotely science fiction. I have been indecisive about it for the longest time because this is the fourth book in a series, so I don't know if I should start with the first one or I should just go direct for this one. But this year I have finally made my decision to just get this book and start with this one, partially because I heard that you don't need the first three books to understand the story, and also partially because look how pretty it is. This is a groundbreaking science fiction talking about a human lives in an alien world where the inhabitants lives most of the time without gender. So this human wanted to persuade the planet to join some sort of his plan or organization. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused here. I'm sure it will get clear up once I read this book. However, he does so by ignoring or not knowing a lot about their culture. Zoe said Le Guin's books are her favorites, and she generally have like a lot of great representations, and the literary value is equally great as the scientific value, so I'm very excited for this. Following, I have The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante and translated by Goldstein. To be honest, I did not know a lot about this book. This is totally a result of me sitting down the whole day one day and wandered into a bookshop. But I do know that I love Elena Ferrante and I wanted to read all her books, and this is one of them. This is the first book that she published after the Napoleon Quartet. It centers around a woman who is searching for her reflections in two kindred cities. So she moved from one another in search for truth, but neither cities can offer her answers nor escape. The premise of the book just sounds very interesting, and I can't wait to dive back to Naples under Elena Ferrante's pen. And then I have Heaven by Kawakami Mieko, translated by Simon Bett and David Boyce. I got this book in the same bookshop trip that I went to from the last one. I have my eyes on this book since it came out and was shortlisted on the International Booker Prize. The story was talking about a schoolboy who has a lazy eye, so he was bullied quite a lot in his school. The only person who understands him is one of his classmates. Kawakami is a phenomenal contemporary writer in Japan, and she has quite some books that I wanted to explore, and this one is the first one that I've decided on. Following a few books that I acquired recently, the first one is Wide Open Town on A History of Queer San Francisco to 1965 by Nan Alamilla Boyd. I started to get interested in the queer history in San Francisco earlier this year after I read Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, and she said on the author's note that this book actually helped her a lot. Especially this book has a lot of oral histories where people were telling their own history when they lived through that time. So at first I borrowed this book from the library, and upon reading it I found out it's gonna be a slow read and I'm gonna need a lot of annotations. So I got a copy of myself, and as you can see I already started to taking notes. Then I have two books that I got because of the recommendation to me in the comment section. The first one is The Adventures of China Aron by Gabriela Camaggion Camala and translated by Fiona McIntosh and Iona McIntyre. This is a book talking about a Argentina woman called China Aron who went on a trip across the Pampas on a wagon, and on the trip she met her new friend who's from Scotland called Liz. They traveled together and talked about all the things and found peace and refuge in the Utopia indigenous community together. And I have heard this book reminds people of Iliad Quest, which is a book that I loved a lot, and I generally will read anything that related to it. And I also heard that this book is loosely based on a Argentina epic poem, which I'm really intrigued with. And then I have The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector and translated by Benjamin Master. And can I talk about how the cover is actually startling me? And this is a story talking about a person called Macabea who lived in a very unprivileged life in Brazil. But the special things about her is that she doesn't seem to know how unhappy she should be, and she also have dreams like everyone else. This is a story about poverty, identity, love, and the art of fiction. I just feel like the startling cover maybe echoes with the hardness in her life, and yeah, it kind of like scares me. The last book I got in this haul is one that I already read and I just want to have my own copy. This is the opposite of The Butterfly Hunting by Ivana Lynch. This is Ivana Lynch's memoir about her recovery from anorexia, and this is one of the best memoirs that I have ever read. I love it so much and I'm happy that I have my own copy now. And that's all the books that I got in this book haul. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below which books do you want me to read first, and do you have any thoughts on them, and is there any books that interest you in this haul? And don't forget to say hi in the comment section, thumbs up to this video if you liked it. I wish you happy reading, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!